Good morning.
Jeff Bezos sent this to me.
My buddy Jeff.
Well, we've been waiting for a tool to show up. We had a couple things on pause. We've got our project here with our steering stem, the steering stops on the bottom there. Those things need to be modified. That's still on pause. The other thing that was on pause was the shift lever for our foot on the left-hand side of the bike. We previously took our broken shifter off the bike, drilled a hole in it, and then began to make a new pedal for it, but realized we didn't have the right tools. We were trying to modify and repair that. And that is where this stuff comes in, right here and right here. I thought when I bought my lathe that it had come with a knurling tool. I remember the guy when I was at his place and he was selling it to me, showing me that it had a knurling tool with it. And but then I can't find it anywhere. So yeah, let's look at this. So it's a two-wheel knurling tool. I don't know a whole lot about these. Other than when I just bought it, so I looked at what the options were. You can get them with a one-wheel knurling tool or a two-wheel. The one wheel has both of these patterns sort of in one, and it puts the one pattern onto the item you're doing. And there's different types of knurling tools depending on your setup. My setup has like a 1/2-inch square holder on it, so that's what I got this one for. This will fit into my holder on my lathe. My little workpiece would be something. This is an example. And this goes against it, and you just press it against there and then rotate this workpiece on the lathe, and it will put this impression, these little gears. You can see these have got these raised, maybe you can, raised surfaces on them, and then it rotates around and cuts, not so much, but embosses this pattern onto the workpiece. I got that. This one came with a 1.5 millimeter pitch. That's the wheels on here, how deep the pattern is, how big the pattern will be on your workpiece. That wasn't good enough for me, so I ordered some additional wheels here that are supposed to be 2 millimeter. A little bit. I wanted as big of a pattern or as deep of a pattern as I could get. As coarse of a pattern as I could get, and the 2 mil seemed to be the only thing available. So this thing, I'm not sure that's really designed for me to take it apart, but these should be the same size wheels and everything. And so I'm going to press these wheels out. They've got these little tiny rods in there. Press those out and put in my new ones. I'm gonna try the hammer approach. The hammer approach. That seems better. There's one wheel out. One side of this little rod has some splines on it. And that fits on this side over here. Interesting. Let's bust out some oil real quick. Somebody in the comments the other day, and I thought this was a great suggestion, said that they like to use heavyweight oil, like gear oil, probably like 90 weight oil on stuff like this. And I think that's a great suggestion. I feel like I should have some around. I just don't know. Let's see I'm not sure if I can get to it or not. Hold on. Yes. So yeah. Here's some gear oil, 75-90 gear oil, so it's heavier stuff. All right, it worked.
Works fairly well.
Ow. That was my finger. Swap out my other wheel. Get some oil on this guy. You know, some days I don't feel like doing nothing. Some days I don't feel like exercising. Some days I don't feel like coming out here, even though like all I think about is motorcycles. But I do it anyways. Like this morning, didn't feel like exercising, did it anyways. Once I got into it, I was like, rah, and I made good use of my time and got a good workout in, but coming out here, I'm like, but I'm gonna come out here, we're gonna play with, I've already done this. It's a little bit step ahead where I swap this out. It's one tiny step further in our process, and then I'm gonna go over to the lathe now and we'll see if we can actually knurl something for the first time. And what I might find is that if I can actually be successful, I'll probably get really happy about the whole situation and be very, very glad I came out in the garage. And that's kind of my point, is that I oftentimes don't feel like doing nothing, but if I push through, it's almost always worth it. So let's go over to the lathe. This is the way my lathe has the tools set up in it. So this guy goes in here like that. I'll tighten these guys down. And then in theory, we'll have something we can use here. All right, so here we are. We've got our tool in here. And I've never done this before, so I don't know what I'm doing. But the concept is I just push this against here, and then the difficult part is that you have to run the lathe in one direction as you move the tool along here, and then reverse it, run it the opposite direction, and then run the tool back. That is probably where I'll mess up. I did leave this a little bit more meat on here than I actually need. I don't need it to be this fat, so I could always trim it down a little bit skinnier if we really mess this up. But we'll see. This is just kind of a fun experiment at the moment. Do I absolutely have to have this knurling on here? No, I mean, this thing is for me. I'm making this for myself. It could be whatever the hell I want it to be. But yeah, that's the general idea. Something like that. Move this down to the end. Just see what happens here. Nothing. Yeah, I think this wheel doesn't spin as freely as it should. All right, so I think I fixed this. I just pushed the little pin out a little bit to relieve some pressure. I think when I swapped out the wheel, I put it in there a little bit too tight. I'm really unsure about this whole process at this point. I don't think it's that complicated, but all right, let's see. Is that working? Perhaps. I definitely made a mistake here on the end. Messing around at the beginning. I'm hoping that sort of flushes out. All right, now reverse. I spin the lathe the other way, and we'll go that way. I'm just doing this by hand. A lot of times people use the power feed. I mean, if you're a professional, you use the power feed to move this guy over. I'm not doing that. I'm just doing it by hand because I'm experimenting and trying to figure out how this works. I want a hands-on, man. Wow, it seems to be working. Holy shit. There it is at this point. Pretty bonkers, man. I'm gonna keep going because we've just barely begun. I'm not sure, but I think this might be as knurly as this one's gonna get. It's pretty cool, dude. But yeah, the depth of the knurl is gonna be correlated to the depth of this knurling tool, and I think we're about there. So I'm gonna back this thing off, call it quits on the knurling. But yeah, pretty happy with that. But yeah, check out that knurling, bro. I mean, for a simple tool, really, this is not a complicated tool to use. You get pretty advanced results here. This is some advanced stuff that I never even dreamed of doing, And now, look at that. So let's move on to, I need to sort of measure this thing out again, and then I'm going to trim this stuff up a bit more so that it will fit into the pedal lever. All right, so I swapped my tools around to my cutting tool. This is the tool I use to like actually cut things off. Or if I want a really straight cut like this right here, where it's on the face of it, it's just straight 90 there. And that's what this tool allowed me to do. And so cutting wise, what I'm going for here is we want 1.5 inches length on this thing. We'll set this thing up, and it doesn't have to be precise on this for sure. And then I'm going to use my DRO up here. I've got my tool lined up right on the edge of my piece, my work piece. I'm going up to my DRO and I'm going to zero. Which one am I zeroing out? That one, my X. I'm going to zero out my X. All right, then I'm going to come down here and we're going to move this guy over 1.5 inches, and I'll know precisely when I get there because it will tell me up here. Well, there we are, 1.5 inches. Right there, 1.5 inches. There, 1.5 inches down there. The actual section that will come into contact with my foot, I want to be that long, so I can cut that there and start trimming this stuff down. Is what I'm going to do. So on this one, I can't really use this tool to go back and forth the way you can with this tool here. You can kind of see how this has the wedge shape that allows you to go back and forth like that. If I did it with this one, I'd probably end up breaking the tip off of it or something. So this is really only designed to just go straight in and cut things off. But I am going to use this to do my initial pass and go, I'm going to cut this down in as if I were going to cut it off, but I'm not going all the way. I'm going to swap my tools around. Alright, so I've used my little cutoff tool here to sort of straighten the sides in here. There's probably a better, more specific tool for doing this kind of work, but I don't know what it is because I'm not really a machinist. I just got cool machinist tools, man. So yeah, I've got this trimmed down. This is about 1/4 inch, just a little bit above. And I'm going to do the same thing here because we've got a slanting wall here. I'd like to straighten that wall up. So I'm going to trim off all this little slanty part here with my cutoff tool. Alright, I've gotten this as far as I want to get it. Got all that trimmed up over there. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off at this point, and then we'll stick it in the, we'll take this part here and stick it in the lathe. I want to clean up, because we drilled that little hole here that this guy, our live center, is sticking into, and I want to clean that up a bit so it looks a little bit nicer. Look at that fella right there. Look at him. So yeah, I want to clean this little hole up in here. My thought is to describe it down so it looks like there's a little sort of ridge on the outside. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick this guy in my chuck. All right, so I've got a different tool set up here. I've got my little piece in the chuck here. I just want to hollow this out a little bit, put a little bit of a recess on the end here. All right, so I think it's finished. So there it is on the end. That's kind of what I was talking about, where I wanted to put a little bit of a recess in there, just to maybe clean it up and add a little bit of extra detail in there that maybe will be cool. I don't know. And on the other end, this is where we're at. I'm not worried about this little nub on the end because this should all fit. Let's see if this fits into our little guy there. And I need to, somehow we're gonna weld this frickin' thing. My idea was to do a plug weld on this side, but that means I need to recess this a little bit at least. Something, I need to have it recessed, something like that or whatever, so that I can get some filler metal in there. And then I'll also add some extra reinforcement on the top here as well. That would be my thought. I should probably get this so I don't have to press it in, huh? I'd like it to be flush. So yeah, I'm gonna go and trim this down. It's back into the lathe. All right, so we got it. So the handle is now on there. I need to mark this thing and then trim this back. All right, so I've got it out of the lathe. I've got it trimmed down to just that little nub there. And that should fit inside here and provide just a little bit of space there to fill with weld material. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this stuff up a little bit, get it ready for welding. I'm pretty pleased with that, right? I mean, that's a pretty cool looking pedal. Shift lever, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's not bad. It's the first time we knurled something. We plug welded the back of it, which makes it a lot cleaner looking. You don't see any welds. The average person isn't really gonna know how this thing was made or how it got put together. So I'm pretty pleased with this. So yeah, let's go get it on the bike. All right, so I may need to take this off again. I realized that for whatever reason, I might need to. I don't have a switch on the kickstand at the moment. I don't really want a switch on the kickstand. Oh, and the kickstand is not even like tightened down. Let's take care of that. Why is that not tightened down? Is it busted or something? I'm hoping that I loosened that at some point and not that it was like that from the accident. Yeah, the bolt is just wobbling. Yeah, look at that sucker. Wonky little bolt. All right, let's see if I've got a different bolt. All right, I believe this is an M10 by 1.5. I don't know. I'm not sure about the threads on there though. Let me see if I can chase the threads. Just trying to clean the threads up in here. Hopefully make this usable. See if this will go in easy or not. Oh yeah. That is a lot better. This one's a bit shorter than the original. So I'm gonna see if I can find a longer one. I've got a nice factory spec bolt here. It's got the little pointy shank thing on the end of it. This is something that came off of when I stripped that Fiat. Again, I got a ton of bolts off of that thing. You know, this kickstand took a beating, man. Like, that's kind of fascinating. You would think, I mean, because look, there's supposed to be like something that's broken off here. I assume it's like a little lever to help you grab it with your foot and kick it out. But that's busted off, so that's something we'll need to replace. I'll look to see what the factory one is like. All right, it's all tightened down on the kickstand. I don't think it's perfect. I do think this is a stud coming out of the, what looks like the engine part of the engine case here, and it does look like it's bent a little bit up. Man, but yeah, we'll see how this kickstand looks when we actually put it down. All right, but what we're here for is to put this guy on, and it should go on right about like that. So, yeah, we may come back through and redo this at some point, but I believe it should be right about there. It does look quite handsome on the frickin' bike. Do I want it up like that? Maybe. I want to kind of have it level with. So yeah, let's try it there. I can always switch that around. Not bad.